So for everyone watching, welcome at the Q&A of the Innovation Café this week. We're here with Team Virtue and we're gonna ask some questions. If you have some questions yourself, please put them either in the chat or you can turn on your mic and ask them yourself. So guys, thanks for the talk. I'm just gonna ask you a couple of questions at first. I'm actually wondering because you talked mostly about the team, but I'm also wondering like what your personal incentives were to actually join the team.
Of course. So I'm in the team since the beginning. So we started in September 2019 and I applied the spring before. And for me, I got to know Virtue from the previous team once they were about to go to Dubai. So I saw their presentation and I really thought right away that this would have been for me a crazy experience to learn, really learn a real life project and also get a lot of friends in a big team. But the thing that really got me to join is if I want to get more experience before joining the professional setting, this is the way for me to do it. And it really is going to give me so much more than just what I learned in university. So that's what convinced me. And especially I got convinced to join communication because I really like communicating and talking interacting, and I thought this would be also something different from my study because I study architecture at the TU. What about you?
Yeah, for me, it's a pretty similar story. Personally, I don't study architecture. I study sustainable innovation, which is quite a step away from what we're doing with Virtue. But that's especially why I wanted to join the student team, because I've always been passionate about applying sustainability to the built environment. And by joining a student team, that was a very accessible way to get really into the practical work of doing this. And I particularly enjoyed communication because it was for me the best way to also improve my professional skills in terms of presenting and speaking in public, and also to do something else than purely the studying aspect. Yeah, so that was for me the main reason, and yeah.
So is it true that any student from the TU join the team?
Definitely.
Yeah, we have we do want, like, the most important thing that we require for people to join the team is that they're motivated, that they actually are interested in learning new things and getting themselves out there, and also to engage in the team. So there's no per se a requirement in terms of skill or anything. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a first-year bachelor or a second-year master student, in a sense. The only thing that we do have talks with people before they want to join the team, and we just ask why they want to join the team and what they're interested in, just to sense if they're really motivated or if they're just doing it for, I don't know, to put it on their CV, for example. So that's the most important thing. But apart from that, anyone can join the team.
Yeah. I guess it also depends, because you don't want your team to grow too big either, because then it becomes,
and also too scattered of people that don't really have a motivation. Indeed, like it's an intense experience, so you also don't want somebody to join and then a month after say, oh yeah, this is not for me, I'll leave, because we invest in these people as well that we have in the team.
Yeah. So the challenge, when is it going to take part?
It's going to be in July 2022.
Okay.
So that's why, yeah. That's when we're going to be in Wuppertal for 1.5 months. All our stuff will be shipped from the Netherlands to there, and we'll be building there for 1.5 months. And then when it's finished, also presenting it to a jury.
Actually, I think it's just one interesting thing. It was very great that we're going to be there for 1.5 months, but the building time there is only 2 weeks, which is extremely short for a house, and that's why we test build before. One of the reasons why we test build in Eindhoven to firstly build the house and take more time for it, and then check all the systems that everything works and optimize it for the competition. And then the competition is basically a huge expo. We haven't explained, but it's really, yeah, we have explained partly how it's a huge expo, and then the teams build very quickly the house in 14 days, and then there's jury tours and public tours, and tons of people come and see the house, and we're also judged on how the house performs. So for example, there's team dinners in which we invite other teams for dinner to perform, to see the performance of our house in use. So all these kind of things.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering. Because I mean, I don't know how many teams there are joining.
18.
18.
We're one of the 18 teams in play now. Yeah.
Because I mean, I can imagine like you want to show how your house is obviously at work. I was even wondering, but you're already saying like there's team dinners and tours and whatever. But is there also like people just staying in the place for like a while, or?
That is the interesting thing we are trying to get, because 8 of the 18 teams get selected further, let's say from the competition organization. If they want to, they can leave their house there after the competition, so not demount it again and bring it back home, but they can leave their house there because they organize to have a living lab for 5 years, in which these houses become hostels for people to stay at. So in that case, yes, they can be placed to live in. And maybe also important to mention is that our house will comply to, the houses need to comply to the building code of the country of origin, so in our case the Netherlands, and of Germany where we're building, so people can actually live there and work there or whatever.
But then does that, because I mean, I can imagine, knowing the Netherlands, it's quite an intense code that it needs to apply, like, how do you say that? Like,
it is.
Yeah.
The building code is quite intense. Yeah.
But then doesn't that like make the skills a bit differently? Because I mean, I can imagine that in other countries they might not be as strict as the Netherlands. Is that not so much a thing?
Well, I'm not sure about whether the comparison between the Netherlands and Germany, for example. We have set up for ourselves these codes that relate to both the Dutch and the German codes, so that they comply to both.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And probably, as you mentioned, actually there would not be a big difference between the teams, even if, for example, between us and people from Thailand, because or from France, because we all need to comply to the German rules as well, even if we just build there and one. So those are quite strict. So
that makes sense then. Yeah, exactly.
Quite a fair game. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Then it's not so big of a disadvantage. I can
No, indeed.
Let me check. I was wondering, because I mean, you already explained a little bit of the ideas that you have for the challenge, right? Where in the process, like, are you? Because I mean, you still have a while to go. What is the main thing that you're working at right now to develop more? Where are you in your process?
We're currently, so as I showed before in the presentation, there's you first have to design the complete concept before you get into the demonstration unit. And we're currently finishing off, we want to finish this in January. We want to finish the final design for the complete concept. So that means we've started in looking into ideas for our demonstration unit, so the unit that's going to be built. But we're now finishing off the entire design of the project.
Yeah, so this is actually a very exciting phase. It's the final design phase, because is the phase in which we're most in contact with companies. We're getting all our partners on board. You saw just some with which we already had a contract signed, but we're really having contact with more than 50 and 60 partners for all kinds, and especially suppliers now that can get all the components of the house ready. And we had a moment in the last period in which we wanted to bring our design to the next level. So we're actually now taking a bit of a step back and really redefine some design aspects to make them stronger. But apart from that, in the end of December, indeed, towards January, we'll have our design finished. And as I said, in June, we'll be test building it. So it will be a matter of making it from this drawings all the way to actual building.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Nice. So I mean, obviously, like we are living in a pandemic right now. How has that affected the progress of your project?
Well, yeah, like we mentioned in the beginning, it was really difficult because everything was based on physical meetings and brainstorming together.
We had an office.
We had an office that we worked in, and then it started happening as it did, and then we did get some updates from the competition, of course, about how it's going to be, and then we got the update that it was postponed by a year. And like looking at that, we're doing everything basically online now. Like sometimes we have, like, depending on what the regulations are in that periods, we have meetings in small teams, because our complete team is divided in teams that focus on different aspects of the design, and we're, for example, part of the communications team. So we can have meetings in person to stay in the bubble of your own team, for example. But yeah, it has definitely proven that this extra year that given by the competition is very crucial, because we don't know how it's going to be, and especially if we're going to be actually test building next year in June, we're still going to have to see how that's going to work, because if we can't have enough people working on it at the same time, it's going to prove another challenge. But we're looking at it month by month.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to stay positive and not to think about how it's going to be long term, because otherwise, of course, we're looking at it practically, but it gets too demotivating if we think that our competition won't be as exciting as we're looking forward to it. So yeah, it's challenging.
But I can imagine it can be seen as an opportunity, because I mean, considering this is gonna be here for a while, I think a lot of people are gonna be having the same problem, like building in
Sure.
I can imagine like it can also give you new insights in how to tackle these problems.
Yeah, that's also the most challenging thing for us, of course, because we've chosen a scope that really focuses on the interaction of people and getting people together. So especially we've chosen to continue on this because we still really believe in this this vision.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still gonna have to see how that comes in play, because it's gonna be really difficult if we're gonna have to convince people of this while we can't even have people together to show how it would work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big challenge, especially for the scope we're taking.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Not a question, because I mean, you mentioned that you have this idea of I mean, after the challenge is finished, like this building could be built somewhere else, right? Like in a city or something. Have you also looked, I mean, maybe this is a bit precarious and you haven't gone into that yet, but like, I can imagine cities already exist. So like, have you also been thinking of the fact how you could change your ideas to implement it in pre-existing buildings?
Yeah, so basically it's something we, as you say, we conceptually really try to focus on, and now especially our architecture team has been looking into precise cities and spots in the cities, like actual sites where our building could be placed. And of course, it's not just a matter of placing the building as it is on top of another building, but our framework really aims to be also specific to the city we go, we want to apply our concept to. So that means taking into account the demographics of the city, the situation of the city, mobility situation of the city, all kinds of things that we understand and take as a challenge. But that's kind of the point of our concept. We try to make a universal framework that, however, can be specific and comfortable enough for cities to apply. So it's not this, as you saw, also the design itself is not this really boring, monotonous block that can just be applied in any city, but it really tries to, adapt to the situation. And I guess we'll be, especially once our design is finished, because now we're mainly focusing on what our design in our location is. Once the design is finished, it's interesting to look at how this can be applied elsewhere. And I actually just had a meeting today in which I was discussing how to implement this in a course, and we discussed how to bring our building onto a building on campus. So I need to look into how that could work, because if you think of urban densification while preserving green areas, even places like our campus that seems so big and having so much space can be opportunities.
No, that would be interesting to see if it could actually work like that.
Yeah. So
I mean, during your presentation, you really focused on the fact that habits really have a big impact. And I think that's also what came out of the Mentimeter is like saying that it's the small things really that that can make a difference already. Because I think what I try to be relatively sustainable, but I also hear a lot of people saying like they feel overwhelmed because it's so much and people want to do a lot of things at the same time. What would you suggest for them to for people to start living more sustainable?
Well, of course, like we do realize that it's really difficult, because that's also the problem we try to tackle, because we know that in the current way cities are worked and buildings work, it is pretty difficult to adapt these habits. And that's also why we wanted to create this platform that people, without even putting extra effort per se, making it easier for them to adapt those habits. But the thing is, like personally, I would say that it's always the best to look at the things you do well, and how you can elaborate on that further. So the habits that I said, for example, if you say like, okay, I use grocery bags like 70% of the time, and try to make that 100%, because you're already on the way there. So that's the extra step. Is it's easier to do extra in one thing than to do something that you've never done before. And if you do something that you've never done before, it's not like you have to go cold turkey straight away, I would say vegetarian or anything. But yeah, small steps, and see what you do like, and what can be implemented and what can, because there's a lot of different things available. And it's also if you go on the internet and just Google easy things to do to make your environmental footprint a little bit smaller. And if everyone does it, then we're already a great step ahead. So that's the common misconception, that not a lot needs to happen, but if everyone does a little, it's better than one person that does everything. Yeah. So that's the thing.
And especially just to add what he just mentioned about, if everybody does it, becomes so much easier. What we're aiming towards, we mentioned a lot of this social interaction, enhancing social interaction, because for us, we really believe all in this, what you could even call peer pressure, because if everybody, like if it becomes a trend to adopt a sustainable lifestyle, then it really makes it easier for people to follow, especially also, you know, young people or older people that are maybe not used to things. And it's really proven also psychologically that you really follow the advice, maybe not even any research you can do yourself, but of the person that is close to you, or friends of yours. So that's something we really believe in, and we think that can make a difference.
I think that's also like nice about your system, that you have that positive reinforcement coming from
definitely.
Because I mean, I know there's like these apps out there that basically focus on living more sustainable, but it makes it almost like a challenge, and you can win things and challenge other people as well. And I think these types of things really work. Like I think that's also like that mental drive that really
Indeed.
People need that to change their mindset about things. So I really like the idea that that's like incorporated in the house, and especially if you're building like a community that way, I can imagine that's really
because then it's also, you're going to add the competitive aspect to it, because your neighbor will be able to see how you are doing, and then it's going to be a competition of who can be the most sustainable in a month, for example.
You just have to be careful that you're not going to get into a neighbor fight about who's showering.
Exactly. We don't want to create a competitive environment, rather a sharing environment, of course, but the competition, the healthy competition starts anyways. And especially our smart systems team has been looking into positive recommendation system, but also gamification of it, because it's proven now that the apps indeed and the systems that use this gamification and challenge-based learning, it can be really fun to do and easier for our mindset to get into it.
Yeah, I can imagine that. If there's no more questions, then I want to thank you for answering mine, and thank you for the talk again. For the people watching, thanks for joining us. And for everyone rewatching this, I just want to point out that next week we will be back with a new Innovation Café with Lars Mulder from EIT Digital. And we hope to see you then again. And you can find more information on our website, www.ehvinnovationcafe.org. So thanks for watching and enjoy your evening.